David Atchison.
I love Provo. When Barbara and I moved back to Utah almost 9 years ago, we could have chosen to live anywhere from Alpine to Santaquin. Yet there was no question about where we would live. Provo was the place. Now, I must admit something that makes me sad. I didn't grow up in Provo. However, I've done all I can in the ensuing years to make up for that deficiency. I've lived and worked and been educated in Asia and Europe, the Midwest, the East Coast, the West Coast, but still I fall short. The best I can do to make up for it is to dedicate myself to making and keeping Provo the best place to live for others, for my wife, and for my sons and daughter. I would like to address an issue that is near and dear to my heart, and that is a constituency that I believe is at risk here in Provo. It's a constituency that I propose as a member of this council I would vigorously represent. That constituency is youth, the 12 to 17-year-olds of this city. Our youth are at risk, and special attention must be paid to assure that our Provo neighborhoods have a healthy number of these youth specifically. This group must be protected and provided for because it represents Provo's next generation. These are the youth who grow into adulthood, having had marvelous experiences in Provo, and who return as adults to rear the next generation of Provoans. If this constituency continues to diminish, as it has, then the viability of Provo as an environment where the healthy cycle of stages of life regenerates, and that becomes in jeopardy and could become non-existent. As a member of the City Council, I will do all that I can to assure that our youth have the opportunity to flourish in Provo's neighborhoods, and that we as adults have the opportunity today to provide for them emotionally, spiritually, physically, and financially. This statement reflects my commitment to encouraging a healthy, prosperous business environment in Provo, with attention to enhancing our tax base. I am passionate about Provo. I will bring that passion to my work on the municipal council, to my work with each of you as a council member, and most especially, I will bring that passion and dedication to my work with and on behalf of the citizens of Provo. Thank you.
R. Nicholas, is it Leidsman? Leidsman.
Just bear with me a bit, I'm getting over a cold. But I've lived here in Provo for nearly 20 years. I moved here when I was in middle school. And you know, I've grown up through the public school systems. I've attended college in the area. And I've decided to settle down. I work in Orem now, and I'm a tax-paying homeowner in the city. So, you know, these three aspects I feel allows me to relate with, you know, all the demographics within the city. You know, I do have a vested interest. I travel a lot for work, see what's around. You know, I go to a lot of different cities. And I'm not going to pretend like, you know, I know all the day-to-day operations of being a council member, but it's more of a vision that I bring. Now, I feel that the city is kind of at a crossroads right now where, you know, some decisions that we're going to be making here in the next 3 to 5 years, particularly with the I-15 corridor being reconstructed, the commuter rail in downtown, these are going to affect our city heavily over the next 25, 50 years and beyond. And, you know, this is one of the reasons that's caused me to want to, you know, be considered for this position. Because I feel that there's some very important decisions that are going to be made here soon. Now, you know, another thing is Provo has always been the hub of the county. And, you know, lately I've been seeing a lot of projects being lost. For example, Pleasant Grove is getting a convention center and an adjoining 12-story hotel. You know, Thanksgiving Point's getting all this office space, while our downtown, you know, it's a nice place. It's a nice I love our downtown. I think there's a lot of potential, but we need to try and get these projects to stay here so we remain the focus of the county. And this would definitely be one of my focuses. Now, I am a strong proponent of citizens' rights, property ownership. I'm fiscally conservative. I come from the school of if you don't have the money to buy it, you don't get it. Or if it's something that's going to benefit you in the long run, definitely have the means to pay it back, very quickly. And trying to go over my notes here. I really feel that we need to, I know you've been focusing a lot on downtown over the past 10, 15 years, and it's been a kind of a slow process, but as I mentioned, with creating accessibility to our city, I'm seeing a lot of smaller cities kind of move past us, and I don't want to see that. I want us to continue to be the focus here at the county, and I do love very much the city. I have a vested interest, and I would love to be a part of this and join you in making decisions that will affect all of our residents. So there we go.
Thank you very much.
John Beasley.
Mayor Billings, Council, I'm happy to be here today. My name is John Beasley. I grew up in Salt Lake City, but I've lived here in Provo since 1972. I've earned my living in this town since 1972, being a jeweler, designer, a goldsmith, and I've always forged ahead in my work with great passion in the design and work that I've done. A majority of my retirement income is invested in commercial real estate downtown Provo. I have a very, very heavy interest in Provo for many reasons. Like I mentioned, I've been very passionate about my work that I've done through the years, and some of you are aware of my passion. If I'm asked to serve on this council, I will do the very best job I can, and I will serve with the same passion that I put into my everyday work. I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
A. Lindsay Wiblin.
I have no prepared speech. I have addressed my thoughts and my issues and my comments to you recently in an email, but I thought that I would just add to that one or two things. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is about David. Not David fighting Goliath, but David being sent to his brothers who were at war with the Philistines. And David arriving there with food and nourishment for them when his oldest brother chastises him. And David turns to him and says, "Is there not a cause?" And so my appeal to you today, and the reason that I'm standing before you today to work with you as a fellow council member, is that I believe that there is a cause. I am more concerned about people than projects in the city of Provo. I think that it's important that we, as elected officials, or in this case, an appointed official, would consider that the people put us there to take care of that which they want. And it would be my hope and choice that I would be able to provide for them, because I would communicate with them and associate with them to find out what their specific needs are. I've indicated to you previously that I come from a background which allows me to know a little about people. I know a lot about business. I think that I can be a good contributor to this council in issues of business, having been involved in business both here and in my home country and other smaller countries around. So I'm not appealing to you to do anything more than appoint me as a fellow council member and have me share with you that which you've taught me as I've served as a a neighborhood chair, and as I've observed what you folk are doing, and I want to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wiblin.
James Anderson.
Good afternoon. I wish to speak to you guys today with the words from people more experienced and more intelligent than I. Most of my sources are well known. George Washington, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, Joseph Smith, Ezra Taft Benson, just to name a few. These patriots passed away many years ago, but their messages are still important today. The core principles most relevant to my discussion today are that man's rights to life, liberty, and property are God-given and his own, not to be restricted by any other person or government. There are only two possible sources for the origin of these freedoms we've come to know as human rights. They are either God-given as part of a divine plan, or they are government-granted as part of a political plan. Intellectual reasoning and testimony of those who penned the Constitution lead me to believe that they are, in fact, divine rights. If we accept these premises that human rights are granted by the government, then we must be willing to accept the corollary that they can be denied by the government. I, for one, will not accept that premise. Since God created man with certain unalienable rights, a man in turn created the government in order to secure and safeguard those rights. It follows then that man is superior to the creature which he has created. Man is superior to the government and should remain master over it, not the other way around. Without property rights, no other rights are possible. There are those who offer immorally that there is a public interest higher than that of private property rights. The Constitution very clearly sets forth that the proper role of the government is to defend an individual's rights to his life, his liberty, and his property. Ultimately, property rights and personal rights are the same thing. The most basic property is, after all, the individual and the individual's unique mind. I hold that the Constitution denies government the power to take from the individual either his life or either his liberty or his property. The actions of men individually is applicable to the government. In other words, if I have not the authority to do it for myself, the government has no authority to do it either. Man is independent and individual and should be free from the abuse of another man and the government he has created. Man holds these rights not from the collective public nor for the public, but against the public, as a defense and a barrier which the public cannot cross. These rights are man's protection against all other men. Any group, any neighborhood, HOA, or government that attempts to negate a man's rights is wrong. It is in direct contradiction with the aforementioned laws of God and the supreme law of man, individuality. It is in opposition to freedom, private property, and the Constitution. Whenever man is made to act without his own free, personal, individual, voluntary consent, his rights have been violated. Since man has inalienable rights, this means the same rights are held individually by all men, every man, at all times, and should not be oppressed. Individual rights are not subject to a public vote. A majority has no right to vote away the rights of the minority. The political function of rights is precisely to protect minorities from oppression from the majority. After all, the smallest minority is the individual. I'm fit for the City Council because I understand what the proper role of government is. I'm not connected with any of the political circles here. I'm not anyone's yes man. I'm done.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Richard P. Valgardson.
Mayor Billings, Council, you've done very well so far, Mayor. Maybe I'll give you a few more responsibilities. I've lived in Provo my whole life. I was born in Provo. I grew up playing in Kiwanis Park. I've had the opportunity to do quite a bit of traveling in the Western United States. I was educated in Provo City schools, Brigham Young University, where I had the opportunity to play a little bit of football, though I'm not very noteworthy, but I had the opportunity. I've also been able to have our own businesses. I have worked with virtually every city council up and down the Wasatch Front, from Logan to Santaquin to also St. George area. I've seen a lot of good things. I've also worked with a lot of city councils and a lot of areas that in the California area, in the Colorado area, the Bay Area, Los Angeles County, and also many other areas. And I've seen how city councils can provide for people an environment that is good, bad, and also ugly. So I have a great deal of experience that I would be able to bring to this council. I have my own business. For over 40 years, I've been able to make payroll every single Friday, and I know what the responsibilities are to be able to make payroll. With my background in accounting and finance, I'm able to understand financial statements. I'm able to know what one has to do to make things work. I like to see people have the right to to work with their own property, to be able to develop their own property, to have the opportunity to make themselves grow and develop in their family. But also we have to remember that anything that a citizen does, they do not have the right to be able to have that infringe upon the property value of their neighbors. And so there's a great balancing act there. I need to commend the council as I come in to Provo, as I come into this valley, either from the south or from the north. Provo is the brightest star in this valley, and I appreciate very much the work that this council has done and prior councils have done. I've had my family reared here, and we've enjoyed the opportunities of peace and safety, being able to walk the streets at night, virtually almost all night if you wanted to. And we have good fire, we have good protection, we have good safety, which the city has been able to provide for us. And I need to say that this is definitely, this is the place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valgaardson.
David Starling.
I have enjoyed observing the council for months. At times, it's been lonely being the last and only citizen to observe the council, but it has always been an enlightening experience. I'd like to make four more main points today. First, knowledge of the west side of Provo. There is an obvious need for west side awareness and involvement. As a teacher in my school, I conduct one-on-one home visits with my students. My school is the only Provo public school to serve students on a city-wide basis. In this capacity, I was talking with a West Side resident. He expressed his dissatisfaction with current business zoning and layout of the West Side, particularly the lack of grocery stores and the inconvenience he and his neighbors felt. My students and their families provide an insight to Provo and the West Side. Second is financial. The council has felt the need for independent financial counseling. This should come from an accountant, but having council members readily familiar with complex budgeting issues would be helpful. This is one of the strengths I bring. I own and run businesses and have managed several trust accounts. All have been successful, all have stayed on budget. With a degree in economics, I can be an asset to this council. My third point is based on the saying, hold the course. This is a saying that I like. It must be tempered with the willingness to be progressive and to try new things. But so many people seem to change an opinion based on the last person they spoke with. Issues should be evaluated, discussed, refined, prioritized, and then have a decision made about them. When the right amount of time is invested in evaluating a problem, making a sound decision, then one can confidently say, hold the course. My final point, I would like to differentiate myself. During the last council meeting, a topic was open to public comment and questions. After the first gentleman expressed his thoughts, I stepped forward to this microphone and asked a clarifying question of Mr. Stewart. It is the question which differentiates, because as the procession of speakers continued, no one inquired further on the topic. They only gave their thoughts on the matter. This procession made a few of the council members smile as it became apparent that the speakers were seeking George's soon-to-be open seat. While their comments were pertinent, valuable, and some eloquent, they all expressed mere opinion. I find it easy to get the opinion of someone. Often, I am even looking to hear it. What's rare is to find someone that can ask a question that delves deeper into the current topic. My contribution will be to ask the thought-provoking questions that brings about greater knowledge to discover the best solution. Thank you. I hope to be of service to Provo.
Thank you, Mr. Starling.
Mark Hathaway.
Good afternoon. It's good to see you. I think you have all of our resumes, so I'm not going to go into a long discussion of how what I've done or what I have done, but I am interested in letting you know that if you are looking for what I can offer, it's only the experience, the energy, and the knowledge that I have of having served 12 years on the council where you sit now. 2 years as vice chairman and a couple of years as a chairman of the council. I've had the fortunate of being a committee chairman or vice chairman of virtually every committee that the council has, including the energy, airport, public safety, land use, and public works. so I know what happens. I know how the council works. I've worked with 4 mayors, including Jenkins, Stewart, and Mayor Billings. I'm currently on the Energy Board and have served as their chairman 2 different times. I think the main thing I can offer is that I hit the ground running with no learning curve necessary. As the most experienced council candidate, I know how to interact and get along with others. I enjoyed these questions that were given us and thought I would like to dwell on one particularly. We talk about private property versus public interest. Of course, each of those issues depend exactly on what the problem is at the moment. So you can't very well differentiate without knowing what the problem is. But my feeling is that private property rights are first to be protected, first and foremost, and the public interest second. However, the public interest may be necessarily pushed to the fore. For example, if you'll recall, and you do, the connection road between University Avenue and Canyon Road at 4800 North. Of course, at one time during our council, we had the issue of connecting University that comes up 3700 North, and then finally we had at the south end of the county connecting I-15 with the old highway. Those kind of property rights are more important, I think, as a public issue, but still looking at property rights are very, very important. Private property rights are very important to me. We were asked how can the council best manage the city's budget. Unless it's changed, I thought the mayor managed the city's budget. The council, of course, makes policy through ordinances and acts as a watchdog on the budget, as they should on every occasion. Thank you.
Dean Kofer.
Thank you for having me here today. I have a love of Provo also. Like the very first applicant, I didn't grow up here either. I grew up in Texas. And after I came here and lived here for several years and then traveled around the world and realized what I had here in Provo, and I've come to love it. This is where I've chose to raise my kids, to raise my family, and live here potentially for the rest of my life. I've seen a great many places and knew that this was where I wanted to live. I've run some small businesses here, and I currently run two businesses, and I'm very familiar with what it takes to make a business grow. Because of my great success in business, I feel like it is now my turn to give back to this community that has given me so much. And what I can give to the City Council is I've spent a great deal of time through not only my business enterprises, but also as a personal hobby. I've spent a great deal of time understanding real estate, knowing what has worked and what hasn't. I've bought property and sold property. We have a great deal of responsibility because of all the privileges we've been given. And if we use our resources wisely, there's a great many things that we can do. There are many opportunities coming. The commuter rail and downtown are both, there are many decisions that will need to be made. And I know that with good decisions and good leadership that we can do some very amazing things, and we can continue to be the leader here in Provo that we should be and have been. In my job and what I do for a living, I get around all over the city. I drive every one of the roads. I meet with people from the wealthiest up on the hill to the college students that go to campus. And it's been exciting, and I get to see and hear and feel how they feel and what they're going through on a daily basis. I'm very much in touch with all of the residents of this city. And I think that with wise leadership, we can continue to be the leader that we should be here in Provo. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you, Mr. Kofer.
Melanie McCord.
I do not expect to be appointed to this council. even though I'm the most qualified person for the job. You know my history, my experience. Those were included on my application. You know my agenda. That was included in a letter. You know my policies. I have taken every opportunity for the last 12 years to tell you what those are. And so I would like to take the time to speak to whoever is appointed to this council, to one of these gentlemen. Public service is a sacred responsibility, but politics is a sewer. Even in Provo, where we should know better, politics is a sewer, filled with cross currents and undertows and occasional backups. Whoever is appointed will find that even the best of people on this council, in the administration, from the ranks of the employees, special interests from the community, and the larger political community, will attempt at some point to use them, manipulate them, convince them, re-educate them, and intimidate them. They need to be prepared, whoever that is. They need to be tough enough to withstand that. They need to be constantly aware of the subtle dynamics that are occurring in the political community here, and they need to be vigilant and strong enough to maintain their autonomy despite those influences, with an eye and a focus firmly on what is best for the city, and to act on that regardless of the cost. There is built into the system something that will help them do that, and that is the public process. By having everything that occurs in Provo open to the public, available for public scrutiny, and accessible for public input, they'll do a better job. And so that would be my recommendation for whoever does this. Become an advocate for the public process. I am. Thank you.
V.K. Van Buren.
I'm grateful to be here today. As a longtime resident of Provo City, I owe a lot of the things that I've learned in my life from this city. From youth leagues and raising a family and having a business for now 38 years here in Provo City. I'm grateful for the city and what it's done. One of my favorite things still to do is to have out-of-town guests come and taste our water. Friends from California, Texas, excuse me, they never want to drink the water out of the tap. They say, well, where's your bottled water? And I said, just take a drink. It'll be fine. And they're impressed. And our systems in our city are very good, and that's been a great blessing to me in my life. As I've grown and raised a family in the city, I've come to the point where I would like to give back to the city. Now, are we perfect? No. Have we room to get better? I think we do. And that's why I would like to have an opportunity to serve on the council. I think there are 2 or 3 issues that I'd just like to talk about today. One of them is safety. I think one of the main roles of the government is to provide for the safety of its citizens. That can take very many different directions, but our police and our firefighters, they need to have the support and the funding to do their job. Our infrastructure, our roads, our sidewalks, they need to be safe. They need to provide the opportunity for our citizens to walk and go to work and go to play. Sometimes the dark parts of our city get ignored. I think we need to be careful. And we need to look at those areas and make sure that all parts of our community have those benefits of having safety and freedom to move about. Another area I think we need to talk about is the growth of our community. Provo City has always been very good, and I commend the mayor and the council to bring in companies that continue to increase the vitality of our city. I think we need to continue to do that. I would suggest that we give more emphasis on our downtown. We have some very good anchors in our downtown with the Covey Center now that has turned out very nice, and then On the other end, the commercial district with the Wells Fargo building and the new Zions building. I think now we need to concentrate on some of the things in between so that our citizens feel like they can walk from the Zions building to the Covey Center and enjoy a movie, or walk back up the street to a restaurant and not feel threatened and feel like they feel comfortable there. The last thing I'd like to talk about is, I think the next few months and maybe years, balancing the budget will be a huge challenge. As this recessionary time is here, I think we'll need to be careful, make very hard decisions. And as we do that, I think we need to continue to understand the sacredness of the public funds and use them accordingly. I appreciate your time today. A great leader once said, "In all of living, have much fun and laughter. Life is to be enjoyed, and it's just not endured." I hope that we can do that, and we can allow that opportunity for all our citizens to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Buren.
S. Kim Hodges, he has 3 minutes.
So I'm to begin now?
You are ready to begin, sir.
Okay. Chairwoman Richards, I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you, and I bring aloha wishings from Hawaii to you. Just a quick review, I've spent the last 34 years in Provo. 4 of those years were spent on the east side by the state hospital. That was by the state hospital, not in. And then the last 30 years have been in the Grandview area. I've been in the financial service industry now for 30 years as a stockbroker in Provo. In 1992, Mario Jenkins appointed me to the Power Board, and I served there for 8 years. For the last 13 years, I've served on the National Board of Directors for the Exchange Club, culminating in 2007, serving as their national president. I think the biggest issue that's going to be facing Provo this next year is going to be a budgetary one, mainly because the American people are turning from being spenders into being savers. You've seen that now with the closing of Mervin's, the consolidation of Linens and things, and also Circuit City. Other companies are considering the same kind of consolidation, and that's those that have talked about that are Sears and Dillard's. Provo City has begun to see the initial phase of the car dealership issue with the relocation of the Brent-bound Toyota store to Orem. The second phase is that GM, Ford, and Chrysler have said that the car sales nationally will go from 16 million cars a year down to 10 million. Consequently, all 3 of those are in talks about consolidating their dealerships. That could be either very good news for Provo, or correspondingly could be very bad news for Provo. Those are the type of issues that I believe that the council needs to be aware of and know what's happening out there so that they can plan accordingly. I look forward to helping the city navigate through these rough waters that I see coming in 2009. And thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges.
Neil Mitchell.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate your time. I'm not sure what you're looking for this afternoon in a prospective councilman, so I'll just start with a little bit about myself. I've served 13 years on a credit union board. Many of those years I was chairman of the board. 5 of the years I was the only male on the board, serving with 4 women.
That sounds great. Sorry, I shouldn't have said anything.
So I'm well aware that women are outstanding in members in management and positions of authority. And having been married almost 40 years, I'm very used to having a woman tell me what to do and where to go. So, in addition, I've served in the military. I was the operations officer, military police operations officer at Fort Stewart, Georgia. I have a desire to serve. I've volunteered for many things over the years. When my children had 3 children and 11 grandchildren, when my children were in school, I used to volunteer for things like T-ball coach, soccer, Little League football, girls softball, you name it, I've probably done it. And like I say, I do have a desire to serve. And I'm not afraid to take the time to get the facts, do my homework, and make sure things are done properly. How did I get involved in this. It was actually my wife's idea. She read about it in the paper, suggested I apply. I laughed it off and told her to forget it. But the more I thought about it, after a while, I decided that, hey, this is something I'd like to do. And really have the desire and energy to do it. What would I like to see done? Beautification, for example. At different times, different parts of the city have been the focus of revitalization and renovation. There was Carterville at one time. The Franklin neighborhood was recently revitalized. Around the east side, around the university, was focus at one time. And at different parts of the city, I'd like to see an overall approach where the entire city is looked at rather than waiting for one area to kind of go into decline and then focusing on it. We have a problem with gangs and graffiti. We're not like Salt Lake and West Valley City yet, but we really need to focus on that to get a handle on it and make sure it doesn't spiral out of control. Then there's the us versus them thing that could be political or religious or just one area of the city opposed to another. The demographics are changing. We're becoming more diverse, and we really need to make sure that everyone feels an integral part of the city, and that everyone is their input is necessary, and that all segments of the demographics of the city are really represented, and their input is accepted. And I see my time is about up, and so I'll thank you for your time, and thanks again.
Charles McElwee.
That's close enough.
Say it correctly, would you?
McElwee.
Thank you.
I'm probably the least qualified here to stand, but I'm just concerned. I'm here as a voice for the BYU community. I'm not an official of any sort. Many say that Provo and the BYU community are one and the same, but the city and especially the council have proven otherwise. Many times the council has repeated the phrases, "We love BYU, we love the students." However, these phrases are always followed by a powerful word, but. We love BYU, but, and it's usually followed by something which sounds to students a lot like, but not really. I spoke with a member of a group doing a study for the revitalization of downtown Provo a couple months ago. When they found out I was a student, they asked, "How do you feel about Provo?" I answered positively, and then asked if they spoke with many students. They said yes, so I asked what the general response was, and I was told that students do not feel welcome in Provo, and students have told me that as well. And this is according to their survey. I don't know what the final results were, but that's what she told me. I stand as a member of the student body. I also see problems with the favor given to developers over homeowners and citizens. You voted to limit the rights of citizens to park in front of their own homes when you made special concessions for Joaquin Village, to have less parking than required by law. They paid $5 million for the land, then proposed to build a multi-million-dollar complex, but could not afford to put in adequate parking. It just wasn't practical for them. Alpine Village is another instance. It is ridiculous to base buildings solely on the desire to build for students and all the money that they will make. Alpine Village may be changing its affiliation shortly. I think enforcing current laws is better than adding to them. I want the City Council to be more favorable to the BYU community, and I will keep it that way, at least 1/7 in favor. I also stand as a 12-year citizen of Provo. I look forward to serving both communities and hope to make them one. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McElwee.
David Cabanilla.
Good afternoon, Council. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to take this opportunity to just introduce myself to you and the public that might not know much about me, especially those that we now have at home. And today I'm going to stand on my record of what I've done for this city and what I hope to be in the future. I believe in doing the right thing. I think I've always done the right thing, whether it be for Provo, business relationships, family relationships. The right thing is very important. And I believe the council should always do the right thing, and if I was elected, I would hope to vote in the right way, for the right reasons, and the right thing. I moved back to Provo in 1990, started remodeling homes. In my career as an airline pilot, it gives me a lot of free time, and my passion became that. Drove my kids nuts. Dad, no more look houses, no more look houses. It became my passion. Remodeled homes on the east side, 1000 East, 750 North, still a good-looking little home. We moved down to the river bottoms where I've built a few homes in that neighborhood, and I built some projects in Provo. I built 78 units with myself and my partners. I was one of the first to build a BYU project after the RC zone was established. I worked closely with Mrs. Richards, who's the only one in this council who will remember that. Well, you'll all remember that, but she and I worked together on that. And not always at the beginning were we friends, and I think we are now. Right, Ms. Richards?
Hello, David.
I was the first to devise an entire neighborhood block, where we planned out an entire neighborhood block for our project, and it still stands. That's where my interest in politics began, and that's where I became a neighborhood chair. And what I've done as neighborhood chair is verifiable evidence of how I can serve this city. I defended the citizens of Provo vehemently, and I think we have some results there in a very, very positive way. I'd also like to let you know that I am a small business owner. My wife is an attorney. She owns a building across the street. We are personally, not only personally, but financially invested in Provo's future, and we love this city as well. And I have a history in our family of public service. My wife's lieutenant colonel in the Army. She's done it for 25 years. Anyway, she's still there, and my grandma served. My father has served his community in 30 years. It's time that I continue to serve. I apologize about that. And I'm a student of new urbanism, and I think this city has got a great future, and it's an urban future, believe it or not. And we need somebody on that council that can provide that help, and I believe I'm that person. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cabanella.
Coy D. Porter.
Good afternoon. First, may I express my appreciation to the council and for staff for the preparations made and that have gone into this process. I'd also like to thank my fellow applicants and for their desire and their willingness to participate, and I wish them well. I'm a lifelong resident of Provo. I live in a pioneer neighborhood, and I'm concerned with preserving neighborhood stability and home ownership. All of my adult life has been centered around service to the community. For 30 years, I dedicated my working career to the citizens of this city. During that time, I honed my leadership and management skills by also serving on numerous committees and boards. I'm currently serving as the chairman of the Provo Scout District here from the Boy Scouts of America. The Provo District includes 87 chartered organizations with over 230 individual scouting units. This volunteer position allows me to assist in coaching, mentoring, and providing leadership opportunities for these young men on their path toward their Eagle rank. Budget and land use are two of the more prominent responsibilities facing the council. In obtaining my bachelor degree, I completed courses in both financial and managerial accounting. In 8 of the last 9 years, I was a very active participant in the budget process. The culmination of those years, I managed and had oversight of over $52.3 million in terms of the regular budget, and also over $10 million in special capital projects. I'm well acquainted with the processes and the procedures within the budget, how it's established, how it's managed, and the general overall system of revenues and expenditures. May I simply say that I'm experienced and I'm no stranger to Provo's budgetary systems. As you also know, I serve as an alternate on the Planning Commission. During the past year, I've missed only a single meeting. Although an alternate, I have sat as a voting member in all but 2 of those meetings, and even in those 2, I still participated fully, although I couldn't vote. I research every agenda item and ensure that I'm familiar with the staff report. If you couple that with my extended background and service in the fire department, I can confidently say I'm well acquainted with the city ordinances and the processes surrounding land use and items. Finally, I've recently run a citywide election campaign. I learned a great deal in that process. I garnered a considerable number of votes and feel that I've been able to establish a connection with a lot of the great many wonderful people in the community. If appointed to complete the remaining time in this citywide seat, I'm here to publicly state that I will run a full campaign and will actively seek to retain that seat. And once again, I thank the council for this opportunity and ask for your kind consideration.
James R. Mathis.
It's been a long time. Mayor, council members, I'm pleased that you gave me the opportunity to compete for this open position. 3 minutes is not a long time, not enough time to go through any of my history and my work history, other lifetime experiences. I will begin, though, by letting you know that I did serve in the military for 25 years after graduation from BYU, and married my lovely wife. We spent 25 years worldwide in many different kinds of positions in the Air Force. I flew combat missions in Vietnam, and before my retirement, my last 7 years, I served at the highest level in the military on the air staff for 4 years, on the Office of the Joint Chiefs of Staff for 3 additional years. I came to Provo and I was privileged to receive the job as an airport manager. I think over the 17 years I served in that position, I took the airport from something that was unsightly and somewhat unsafe to the finest general aviation airport in the United States. During that period of time, I just learned to love Provo City. I know the functions of the mayor. I know the functions of the council. I know the functions of the CAO. I know the functions of the city departments. I've submitted budgets for those 17 years for the city of Provo and lived within those budgets. I've worked zoning issues. I've written master plans. I've had some significant environmental issues that I was able to overcome, and I think that I've done a good job running the airport. But during the period of time that I was doing that, I just developed that love of the city. I think Provo is the best run city in the state of Utah, and that is as a result of both the work of the mayor and work of the municipal council. I sit and watch the problems other cities have, and I just don't want some of those problems to ever come to Provo City. We kind of stay out of the news and have the best city services and probably the best tax situation of any city in the state of Utah. I would probably tell you why I'd like to run more than what I've done, but I know time is running short, but I do know this city. In addition to my work with the airport, I've served as a civil service commissioner, which has oversight responsibilities of the police and fire department. I've been a businessman and other things, but my main reason for serving is just to do a service and help the commission, help the council through this transition period and through the problems of the economy for the next year and a half. I would not run for re-election. I have no agenda, and I've even offered on my letter of application to work as a volunteer and not take any financial contributions or anything from the city for my services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mathis.